It finally happened. William Wallace has been introduced into Rise of Kingdoms, and the Smite Tree is as absurd as we thought. Join me as I break it down. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. Today, we are going to be breaking down William Wallace's Smite Tree and comparing it to some of the other talent trees, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion on whether I think this talent tree is completely meta-breaking and if you should be using William Wallace as a primary, or if you might want to consider going with Liu Che as a primary for this duo. Now, we will not be testing in this video. If you want to see testing, be sure to hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner. We will be doing a whole breakdown where we do testing of a bunch of different pairs. It's going to be great. So with that, let's jump into this and let's actually take a look at what we have with the Smite Tree. Now, earlier, Lilith actually teased some of these Smite Tree skills that we would have. So the final skills you have are to the bitter end, which every 10 seconds after this commander's troop enters a battle, you gain 0.5 bonus to all types of smite damage, up to 10%. We also were able to see Thick Skin, where you take less skill damage. We saw Thunderous Smite. Whenever this commander's troop deals any type of smite damage, there's a 30% chance the damage will be increased by 2%. And we have Fight or Flight. Whenever this commander's troop deals any type of smite damage, all troops hit by the damage lose 15% rage. And this commander's troop deals 2% more snipe damage of all types, but also takes 2% more normal type attack damage. So we saw all those, and I had my suspicions as to what these others were going to be. The first one, I knew it was going to be all about rage regen, and you gain more rage. This one, Enhanced Smite, I had no idea, but this commander troop deals 1% more smite damage of all types. That is insane. That is like all damage buff right there. Then we also got an Eye for an Eye. This commander's troop deals 1% more counterattack damage, which I believe stacks up to 3%. We're going to max update this entire tree for you, so don't even worry. And then we have Killing Blow. Whenever this commander's troop uses an active skill, it gains a 2% bonus to all types of smite damage dealt for 6 seconds. And this is why I really like the idea of William Wallace's primary, is for this skill specifically, as well as some of his that make him special as well. Now, one of the things that I find really interesting is at the Smite Tree specifically, is if you're using a commander with Smite, you probably want to go for everything within this tree, which is unusual. Because if we take a look at some of the other commanders that we have here, let's go up to, let's pick someone with skill tree. If we go over to the skill tree, you might not want all of these, right? There's this where Naked Rage, this commander's troop deals 6% more skill damage, but also takes more skill damage. That's something that you don't typically always want, right? There are a couple others here as well. You may not always want this one. This commander's troop deals 6% more additional damage of all types. I think you'd probably want it, but it depends on what you're running. Or you just may not want to max the skill tree altogether. That's something that a lot of people will do. They just won't max the skill tree because you just don't need it. And that's okay too. Now, there are other setups too, right? We can go take a look at, see how things look in the support tree. So in the support tree, you can see there are skills that you may not want. For example, you don't want siege health or siege benefits. You also might not want any healing because most of the commanders probably don't have healing effects in game. The other thing you could see is if we go to mobility, you're not going to max the mobility tree. So generally speaking, the fact that you're going to be maxing this tree almost entirely is really unusual. Even with attack, if we take a look at attack, this commander's troop deals 6% more normal attack damage, but also deals less skill damage. That's a big trade-off there. You also have this one. This commander deals 2% more damage, but also takes more damage. So the theme here is that historically talent trees have had some level of true debuff to them, but not the Smite Tree. So let's max this thing and let's see what we actually end up with in the end game here. So I think I should have invested heavily enough. Worst case, I can just keep popping in some different tomes. Let's get this maxed up. Here we are. And this is the final Smite Tree. You've got 9% rage from normal basic attacks. You've got 6% bonus to all types of smite damage for 6 seconds. That's a big buff. That's a really big buff. And think about it. If you're pairing him with Gorgo or you're pairing him with Liu Che, that buffs both of your skills. Then we've got 6% more smite damage of all types, but also takes 6% more normal damage. This is not that big of a deal. 6% more normal damage, I'm not too worried about. I would much rather take the 6% more smite damage. I think if we're talking about 6% more skill damage or 6% more all damage, I would be less a fan of this. And again, this is an optional one. This is maybe the only one that I would question if I wanted to take, but I'm going to take it anyways. This one, whenever this commander's troop deals any type of smite damage, all troops hit by the damage lose 45 rage. That's a big deal, right? Because we have our rage requirement here of 1,000. But the other thing you have to remember is with Liu Che's expertise, if we go all the way up to the top here, Liu Che has a chance to gain 1 basic attack worth of range, launch 1 extra combo attack, and generally he's going to be popping his skills really quickly. What we're actually seeing here is, I believe, that skill alone, let's double check here, that skill alone counters essentially the Horn of Fury. If you don't have it expertise, it can counter the Horn of Fury, which is huge. That's a major debuff that we're talking about coming from just the talent tree. So I'm already pretty astounded looking at this. Now, then we have this. When you deal any type of smite damage, there's a 30% chance the damage will be increased by 10%. Now you notice one thing that's missing here. There's no timer on this. You can trigger this as many times as you want. And a 10% damage boost is huge. That is a massive buff that we're talking about coming from just the talent tree. But that's not all. You take 6% less skill damage. Most commanders in the field are using skill damage, so that's just a freebie. And then every 10 seconds after this commander's troop enters a battle, you are getting a bonus to the smite damage dealt. I like that. I think we're talking about Liu Che with Wallace. This is probably going to be a pretty tanky pair. If you put him with Liu Che and Gorgo, that's also going to be great. Gorgo Wallace could be phenomenal as well. So overall, this talent tree is absolutely goated. Like there's nothing I wouldn't want here. And then let's say you finish this talent tree like I just did. You can still go into the infantry tree, which has great buffs. If it were me, I would probably go for, I'd hit this cavalry one, and then I'd probably go for hold the line if I can. That would be my perfect tree setup. So I actually went ahead and did it. I actually just went, and this is the talent tree that I'm currently rocking for my William Wallace. As you can see, I did max the smite tree, and I did go for hold the line, and I have 6% infantry health. To be honest, you could probably trade 2% health for this 4th skill. That's really up to you. I prefer the health, but yeah, I did it. I think that this tree is absolutely going to break the game. Now, there were a lot of questions. Should we be running Wallace as a primary? So looking at his skills, right, you've got a normal AoE effect. There's no debuff that follows immediately after the skill. You do get this when this commander's troop deals smite damage, the damage factor greater than 1,000. There's a chance that that damage will be increased by 20%. That's fine. And then you have these standard skills. Realistically, he doesn't have to be primary. He doesn't. But because of that smite tree, I would be really, really interested in using him as a primary. Now, the reason people sometimes like the idea of Liu Che being primary is A, he's going to deal that massive skill damage, and you're going to debuff and slow down the target, which if you're using infantry is going to be a really big deal. Again, you can always re-trigger, and that's also going to help you a lot. Now, there are a couple other things too. You can deal extra smite damage here, but this does not necessarily drive me to want to use the attack tree over the smite tree. And that's really what we're talking about here. If it were up to me, I'm going to be running William Wallace as a primary with Liu Che behind him, and I'm going to be running Guan Yu Scipio. That's going to be my setup. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Are you maxing William Wallace? And if you are you going to be using the smite tree? Because I know I am. If you guys have enjoyed, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right hand corner, and drop a like on the video. It helps me out a ton, and it helps other people see my content. Thank you so much. Shappy out.